Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Do you hear that? It is not the frantic chirping of birds or the familiar rhythmic buzz of evening insects. It is something much deeper, a heavy and guttural rustling that seems to vibrate through the very ground beneath your feet. It is the sound of something massive moving through the dense undergrowth, shifting its weight with a silent, terrifying grace that defies its immense size. This is the true heartbeat of the Amazon, a place where the air is so thick with humidity and ancient secrets that every breath you take feels like a swallow of living history. We exist in an age of total global surveillance, a time when satellites track our every move and the dusty red surface of Mars has been mapped with agonizing precision. Yet, right here on our own blue planet, a massive green veil hides a world that remains largely untouchable and defiant. Believe it or not, nearly 20% of this vast, sprawling wilderness is still a complete mystery to modern science. It is a blank spot on our maps, a haunting void where the rules of the civilized world simply do not apply and where nature still holds absolute sovereignty. I am your guide into this forbidden landscape. I am here to lead you into the places the textbooks conveniently forget to mention. Forget everything you thought you knew from school lessons or glossy travel brochures. The Amazon I am showing you is not a static background of trees and winding rivers. It is a living, breathing, and often hostile entity that guards its secrets with a fierce, emerald intensity. We are entering a realm where the line between ancient myth and modern reality blurs into the thick mist of the canopy. Recently, everything we thought we understood about the history of this forest was turned completely upside down. Using LiDAR technology, a sophisticated system of laser pulses fired from aircraft that can effectively see through the dense foliage to the ground below, archaeologists discovered something startling. Beneath the impenetrable ceiling of leaves, they found massive structures. Geometric, organized, and incredibly complex shapes that should not exist in a place we once labeled a pristine wilderness. These are not just random ruins. They are the stone and earth fingerprints of a civilization that the jungle tried for centuries to erase. This discovery is a crack in the door, a tantalizing hint that the forest we see today is actually a reclaimed empire, built upon the bones of a lost world. As we descend deeper into the thicket, the light begins to fail. This is the world of perpetual twilight, a place where the sun is a distant memory. Even at high noon, the golden rays struggle to reach the forest floor, filtered through layers upon layers of broad leaves, strangler vines, and ancient moss. Down here, on what scientists call the abyssal floor, you are walking on 1,000 years of continuous decay. Every step you take sinks into a soft, damp carpet of rotting vegetation, fallen timber giants, and the microscopic remains of countless creatures that have fueled the relentless cycle of life for eons. The smell is intoxicating, earthy, sweet, and heavy with the scent of damp mold and rare blooming orchids. It is a place of beautiful horror. In this eternal darkness, life does not just grow, it survives through sheer biological aggression and miraculous adaptation. The trees here are not just plants. They are the ancient pillars of a cathedral that has stood for 50 million years, watching the rise and fall of human species with a cold and total indifference. But there is a growing tension in the air that you cannot ignore. In the Amazon, you are never truly alone. Even when the silence seems absolute, there are thousands of eyes watching your every move. From the tiny, translucent frogs clinging to the wet undersides of leaves to the apex predators that blend perfectly with the dappled, shifting shadows, everything here is acutely aware of your presence. You are an anomaly, a ghost in a finely tuned machine. Something is always watching, waiting to see if you are a threat, a meal, or merely a passing curiosity in their dark world. The forest has a way of making you feel incredibly small, reminding you that your maps and your technology are nothing more than fragile toys against the raw, primordial power of nature. Before we continue our journey into these hidden depths, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your connection to this world matters more than you know. The mystery only deepens as we move further from the known trails and into the heart of the unseen. What the LiDAR revealed was just the beginning of a much larger, darker puzzle. The shadows are growing longer now, and the true sounds of the night are beginning to stir. We are standing on the very edge of a discovery that could change how we view the history of the human soul forever. Something is out there, hidden in the dark, waiting for the light to hit it for the first time in centuries. For centuries, we looked at this vast expanse and saw only a pristine and often unforgiving wilderness. We convinced ourselves the Amazon was untouched by human hands, a garden where nature reigned supreme, and man was merely a passing shadow. We were wrong. This narrative was a misunderstanding, born from our inability to see through the dense veil. Modern technology has finally stripped away that illusion, revealing we aren't walking through a wasteland, but the ruins of a forgotten world. The ground beneath our feet is a graveyard of empires, a silent testament to millions who once called this humid darkness home. The first clues didn't come from the ground, but from the heavens. As we cleared sections of forest, scars of the past emerged like ghost memories. Massive geometric shapes, perfect circles, squares, and straight lines were carved into the clay with mathematical precision. These geoglyphs remained hidden for centuries under the canopy. They are so large they can only be truly understood from a satellite. These weren't random clearings, they were the foundations of a highly organized society. The ancient builders possessed a profound understanding of geometry long before European ships arrived. These earthworks suggest social coordination that rivals the great civilizations of the ancient world. Where did these people live? The search for El Dorado led many to their deaths, but they sought the wrong thing. They wanted stone temples in a world where the primary resource was life itself. Beneath the trees, LiDAR has mapped garden cities. These were not dense urban centers like those in Europe. Instead, they were massive, decentralized networks connected by roads and canals. Imagine a city that breathes with the forest, where houses were surrounded by orchards. It was a form of sustainable urbanism we are only now beginning to grasp. These cities were populated by millions who mastered living within the ecosystem. They built with wood and earth, materials the jungle eventually reclaimed. The most incredible evidence of this lost civilization is the soil itself. In a forest where natural soil is thin, we find patches of terra preta, or black earth. This dark, fertile soil isn't a natural occurrence. It is a man-made technology. The ancient builders created this soil by mixing charcoal and organic waste into the earth. It is a biological miracle. Terra preta can regenerate itself, maintaining fertility for thousands of years. It is as if they engineered the ground to be a living battery. Even today, farmers seek these patches to grow crops, benefiting from a scientific breakthrough from centuries ago. This wasn't a primitive tribe. This was a civilization that hacked the very chemistry of the earth. Then, almost overnight, they vanished like a silent tide. The vanish factor is one of history's most tragic chapters. When explorers arrived, they unknowingly brought invisible killers, diseases like smallpox to which indigenous populations had no immunity. These plagues wiped out entire nations before a single European ever saw their faces. Social structures collapsed, cities were abandoned, and the forest began its work of erasure. Within a few generations, plazas were overgrown and roads were buried. The jungle didn't just hide them, it swallowed them whole, transforming a bustling agricultural landscape back into the wilderness we mistakenly thought it had always been. We are only now realizing the Amazon we protect is a landscape shaped by ancient intelligence. Every cluster of fruit trees might be the lingering echo of a garden planted 1,000 years ago. The ghosts of the past leave us with a chilling and profound question. If a civilization so advanced could be erased so completely, what does that say about our own permanence? As the twilight deepens, the silence of the ruins feels heavy. We realize the forest is not just a place of history, but a sanctuary for things very much alive and unseen. The darkness holds its breath, waiting for the next chapter of this unfolding story that we are just beginning to tell. The mysteries of the earth are profound, but they are only the beginning. But the dead aren't the only ones hiding in the shadows. Beyond the silent remains of the ancient cities, the Amazon reveals a landscape that feels less like a forest and more like a biological fever dream. Here, the very elements of the earth seem to rebel against their own nature, creating a realm where the impossible becomes the norm. We begin our trek toward Mayantuyacu, the boiling river of the Peruvian deep, a place that sounds like a myth until you feel the blistering heat radiating through the air. For miles, the water churns at temperatures exceeding 90 degrees Celsius, producing a thick, sulfurous steam that clings to the trees like a shroud. To fall into this stream is to face a brutal, agonizing death. We have seen the tragic remains of creatures, small mammals and birds, that wandered too close to the edge. Their eyes turn a milky white almost instantly, as they are literally cooked from the outside in. What makes this river a true scientific enigma is the complete absence of a nearby volcanic source. The earth here is porous, allowing rainwater to seep miles into the crust, where it is heated by the planet's internal pressure before being forced back to the surface in a scalding, steaming torrent. It is a place of raw power, where the ground feels like a thin membrane stretched over a subterranean furnace. While the Amazon River below is a titan of water, there is a second river, far larger and entirely invisible, flowing directly over our heads. These are the flying rivers. This isn't mere poetry. It is a massive atmospheric mechanism. This invisible river flows with a force that rivals the currents below. Through the process of transpiration, a single giant tree can release over 1,000 liters of water vapor into the air every single day. When you consider the hundreds of billions of trees across the basin, you realize that an ocean's worth of water is being pumped into the sky, creating massive currents of moisture that travel thousands of miles. This aerial river is the heartbeat of the continent's climate, a delicate balance that provides life-giving rain to regions as far away as the Andes and the plains of Brazil. To stand in the forest is to be part of a giant green lung, breathing out the weather that sustains half of our planet. The forest is not a flat expanse. It is a vertical empire divided into distinct layers of existence. It is a kingdom of vertical migration, where species adapt to specific microclimates within the same tree. At the very top, the emergent layer reaches for the sun, where massive trunks break through the canopy. Below them lies the high canopy, a dense roof that hosts 80% of the forest's biodiversity. Up there, life is a sun-drenched scramble for resources. Many of these species will never touch the solid earth in their entire lives. They are born and die 100 feet above the soil. But as we descend through the understory, the light begins to fail. By the time we reach the abyssal floor, we are in a realm of perpetual shadows, where only 2% of the sun's rays survive. The air here is heavy and still, smelling of damp moss, rot, and the ancient breath of the soil. This is the world of the giants and the scavengers, where the pressure of the silence is physical. Yet, the most profound mystery is not what we see, but what lies hidden beneath the tangled roots. This is the Wood Wide Web, an incredible network of mycorrhizal fungi that connects every tree in the forest. It is a biological internet that allows for a level of communication we are only beginning to understand. Through this web, the forest acts as a single, massive organism. Large mother trees use the network to send sugar and nutrients to smaller saplings struggling in the shade. When a tree is attacked by insects, it sends chemical warnings through the mycelium, prompting neighbors to bolster their immune defenses before the threat arrives. This isn't just survival. It is a sophisticated cooperation that turns the jungle into a conscious, reacting entity. In this environment, plants have abandoned their passive nature. We encounter the walking palm, a tree that can shift its position over years by growing new roots in the direction of the light. There are predatory vines that coil around victims with the speed of a serpent, and orchids that lure wasps into intricate traps to ensure their genetic survival. The forest is watching, and every step we take is recorded by the systems of the earth. The air is thick, the water is hot. The rules of nature are different here. We are in a place where life has pushed past the boundaries of the possible. In the tea-colored waters of the flooded forest, where the roots of ancient trees reach down like drowning fingers, a flash of bubblegum pink breaks the surface. This is not the sleek, aerodynamic acrobat of the open ocean, but something far more surreal. The Amazon pink river dolphin, known locally as the boto, is a relic of a lineage that entered these river systems millions of years ago. Their bodies are soft and flexible, with unfused neck vertebrae that allow them to twist their heads at 90-degree angles to navigate through the dense, submerged labyrinth of the jungle. To see one is to witness a creature that seems to belong to a different physical dimension. Their skin, scarred and mottled, glows with an eerie luminescence in the murky depths. Locals speak of them with a mixture of reverence and a lingering ancestral dread. In the humid, moonlit nights of the riverside villages, the legend of the Encantado persists. It is said that these dolphins can transform into handsome men dressed in white suits, wearing hats to hide their blowholes, as they walk onto land to seduce the innocent, before vanishing back into the current at dawn. It is a myth born from the dolphins' unsettlingly human-like intelligence and their pale, penetrating gaze that seems to hold a wisdom far older than our own species. In a world where the water is opaque as chocolate, these pink guardians rule through a sonar so precise they can detect the heartbeat of a single fish hidden deep within a tangle of rotting timber. But the spectral beauty of the boto masks a much harsher reality lurking just beneath the ripples. If you ask a seasoned river dweller what they fear most, they will not point to the black caiman or the serrated teeth of the piranha. Instead, they will point toward the shallow, silt-heavy banks where the candiru resides. This tiny, translucent catfish is the protagonist of one of the Amazon's most terrifying and enduring legends. Known as the vampire fish, it is a parasite that typically lodges itself in the gills of larger fish to drink their blood. However, the terror it commands among humans is absolute. Attracted by the scent of urea, the candiru is whispered to swim up human orifices with lightning speed, deploying sharp spines that lock it into place. While modern science debates the frequency of such gruesome encounters, the local fear is not based on academic papers, but on centuries of survival. It serves as a visceral reminder that in this environment, the greatest threats are often the ones too small to see until the damage is already done. The water here is not a sanctuary. It is a predatory medium where every movement is a signal and every scent is a trail. Stepping away from the river's edge and back into the suffocating humidity of the undergrowth, we enter the territory of the true ghost of the forest. To see a jaguar in the wild is to realize that you have been watched long before you were aware of its presence. Its coat, a masterpiece of evolutionary camouflage, dissolves into the dappled light and shadow of the forest floor, making a 500-pound predator virtually invisible at a distance of only a few yards. Unlike the lions of the African savanna or the tigers of the Asian jungles, The jaguar does not usually seek the throat of its prey. It is a specialist in a more brutal, surgical form of termination. With the highest bite force of any cat relative to its body mass, the jaguar delivers a singular, devastating blow, piercing the temporal bone of the skull and reaching the brain instantly. It is the silent judge of the deep trails, a feline spirit that moves through the thorns and the mud without the sound of a snapping twig. When the forest suddenly goes quiet and the birds stop their chatter, it is often because the jaguar is passing through, a shadow within shadows that reminds us that here, true power is measured in silence and the suddenness of the end. Beneath the heavy paws of the jaguar, a different kind of collective intelligence is at work. A colony of army ants can consist of millions of individuals acting as a single, devastating, multi-limbed brain. They do not build permanent nests. They are a living river of hunger that flows across the landscape. Anything that cannot flee, whether it is a paralyzed insect, a wounded lizard, or a grounded bird, is overwhelmed and stripped to the bone in a matter of minutes. They represent the cold, collective soul of the jungle, where the individual is sacrificed for the hunger of the whole. Nearby, a spider of the genus Cyclosa performs its own macabre theater. It constructs a life-size decoy of itself out of forest debris and the husks of dead prey, hanging the puppet in the center of its web to distract predators. It is a sophisticated piece of biological deception, a silent guardian of its own tiny territory. The Amazon remains a vast, unread library. Every year, we catalog nearly 400 new species within this green expanse, a new discovery for every day of the calendar. We find translucent frogs whose beating hearts are visible through their skin and monkeys that were unknown to science just months ago. Yet, for every creature we name, a dozen more vanish into the darkness of the unexplored. We are left to wonder what else is hiding in the Javari Valley or the unreachable abyssal floors of the Northern Shield. The forest is a place where the monsters of our myths are made real, and the reality of its inhabitants is often stranger than any fiction we could ever conceive. The deeper we go, the more we realize that we are the only ones who are lost. Everything else here knows exactly where it is. Every year, we find 400 new species. What haven't we found yet? The question of what remains hidden leads us inevitably to the human element, the most complex layer of this green fortress. While we map the stars and send probes to the lightless moons of Jupiter, we share this planet with entire civilizations that have never seen a wheel or a screen. In the Javari Valley, a region the size of Austria, the maps are largely blank. Here, the uncontacted tribes navigate a world that is completely disconnected from our global grid. They are the people who chose to remain in what we arrogantly call the Stone Age, though their mastery of their environment suggests a sophistication we can barely comprehend. They are not relics of the past. They are contemporaries of the present who have rejected the future we are building. When they look up and see a drone or a low-flying survey plane, they do not see progress. They see a violation. To them, we are the people of the merchandise, a strange, destructive force that consumes everything it touches. They respond with a fierce, protective silence, retreating deeper into the heart of the forbidden zones, moving their villages and burning their paths to ensure we cannot follow. This isolation is a fortress of the mind as much as the body. Within these hidden communities, knowledge is not written. It is lived. We are talking about shamanic wisdom that treats the forest as a sentient, interconnected being. The shaman is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. The one who understands that every leaf is a chemical formula and every root is a story. They utilize plants like the ayahuasca vine or the secretion of the cambo frog with a precision that mimics advanced pharmacology. These are substances that can alter consciousness, heal deep-seated psychological trauma, and purge the body of toxins. Our modern science is only now scratching the surface of what these doctors have known for 10,000 years. They possess the cure for diseases we haven't even named yet, hidden in the molecular complexity of a rare orchid or the mold on a specific fallen log. Yet this knowledge is incredibly fragile. It exists only in the oral traditions of a few hundred people. If they vanish, the knowledge vanishes with them, leaving us to wander the forest like children in a library who cannot read the books. This creates the ethical wall, a moral boundary that defines our relationship with the unknown. We are torn between the desire to document and the necessity to protect. To approach these tribes is to risk their total annihilation. Our breath carries pathogens for which they have no biological defense. A simple respiratory infection can decimate a village in a week. To discover them is often to destroy them. We must grapple with the reality that our presence is a death sentence, a toxic intrusion into a delicate balance. We find ourselves in the strange position of having to protect people we are not allowed to see, creating vast, restricted zones to ensure that their way of life remains undisturbed. It is an exercise in restraint that runs counter to our entire history as a colonizing species. We are learning, perhaps too late, that not everything is meant for us. Some things must remain in the shadows to survive, and our curiosity, no matter how well-intentioned, is a weapon we must learn to sheath. These tribes serve as the ultimate guardians of the ecosystem. On satellite imagery, the borders of indigenous territories are clearly visible. On one side, the land is scarred, brown, and broken, the result of cattle ranching and illegal gold mining. On the other, the green is deep, lush, and vibrant. These people protect the heart of the forest better than any government agency. Their lives are interwoven with the trees to such an extent that the death of a forest is the death of their culture. They are the invisible border between the world that consumes and the world that sustains. They know the secrets we forgot, the ancient understanding that we do not own the earth, but rather, we are a part of its complex metabolism. But as the world outside closes in, their home is screaming. The silence is ending because the dark machines arrive. The silence of the Javari Valley is no longer absolute. It is being punctured by a sound that does not belong to the biological record of the last 50 million years. It begins as a distant hum, a low-frequency vibration that rattles the rib cages of the birds before they even see the source. This is the mechanical whine of the chainsaws, the voice of the dark machines. In the deep jungle, where sound is a tool for survival and communication, this industrial roar is a form of acoustic violence. It drowns out the calls of the howler monkeys and the warning chirps of the antbirds. Where the forest once spoke in rhythms of growth and decay, it now screams in the language of cold steel and combustion. This is not the gradual change of seasons or the slow migration of species. This is an abrupt, jagged rupture in the continuity of life that has thrived since the dawn of time. As these machines push deeper into the forbidden zones, they leave behind more than just fallen timber and scarred earth. They transform the very chemistry of the land and its lifeblood. In the hidden, winding bends of the rivers, illegal gold miners pursue the glitter of wealth with a desperate, destructive fervor. To extract the gold from the riverbed sediment, they use mercury, a potent and persistent neurotoxin that binds to the precious metal. But the mercury does not stay in the rusted pans or the makeshift sluices of the miners. It leaches into the water, turning crystal-clear tributaries into veins of toxic sludge. This poison travels silently up the food chain, accumulating in the flesh of the predatory fish, and eventually in the bodies of the indigenous people who have lived in harmony with these waters for millennia. The invisible killer quietens the river from the inside out, stunting the development of children and robbing the elders of their neurological functions. The water that once gave life now carries a heavy metallic death, staining the legacy of the guardians who tried to keep the world out. Climate scientists have a name for the nightmare we are currently constructing: savannization. For millions of years, the Amazon has been a self-sustaining system, a biological machine that creates its own weather through the sheer force of its existence. The trees pump moisture into the atmosphere, creating those massive flying rivers that move more water than the Amazon River itself. But this system has a precarious breaking point, a threshold where the cycle of rain and regrowth can no longer sustain itself. We are rapidly approaching what experts call the tipping point. If we lose just 5% more of the original forest cover, the entire hydrological cycle could collapse like a house of cards. Without enough trees to pump moisture back into the sky, the rains will simply stop. The humid, lush canopy will dry out, and the forest will begin to burn from the inside out, unable to recover from even the smallest spark. It will not slowly fade away into history. It will transform into a dry, scrubby savanna, a desert of shadows where a cathedral of life once stood. It is a feedback loop of catastrophic proportions, where the loss of 1 hectare accelerates the death of the next 10. This is not a local tragedy confined to the borders of Brazil or Peru. The Amazon is the regulator of the world's thermal equilibrium, a massive carbon sink that breathes for the planet. When a tree falls in the heart of the jungle, the repercussions are felt thousands of miles away, in cities that have never known the scent of tropical rain. The death of the flying rivers changes the moisture patterns that feed the breadbaskets of the world, from the American Midwest to the plains of Europe. If the Amazon stops breathing, the rain in New York changes. The snows on the high Andes vanish, and the coastal currents of the Atlantic shift in response to the massive influx of heat. The global climate engine, which has been fine-tuned over geological epochs to support human civilization, is being dismantled by the very species that depends on it for stability. We are not merely observers of this change. We are the primary architects of the imbalance, pulling the structural bricks from the bottom of a tower we are still standing on. The air itself feels different in the wake of the dark machines. In the pristine forest, the atmosphere is a thick, oxygen-rich soup, cooled by the constant transpiration of the leaves. But in the clear-cut zones, the sun strikes the earth with a raw, unfiltered heat that the jungle floor was never meant to endure. The ancient terra preta, the fertile black soil that took centuries to build, is baked into a hard, cracked crust, its nutrients leached away by the first heavy rain. The intricate fungal networks of the wood wide web are severed, leaving the remaining trees isolated and vulnerable, unable to signal for help or share resources. It is a landscape of ghosts, where the stumps of 1,000-year-old giants stand like tombstones under a punishing sky. We are witnessing the dismantling of an empire that existed long before our ancestors learned to sharpen stones. The tension is no longer about what we might find, but about how much will be left to see. The collapse is not a distant threat. It is a current reality, and the machines are still moving. Standing amidst the towering mahoganies and the suffocating humidity of the interior, it becomes impossible to view the Amazon as a mere collection of resources. It is not a warehouse of timber or a reservoir of water. It is a vital organ, a massive biological heart that beats for the entire planet. Imagine this heart, vast and rhythmic, pumping the very essence of life through the planetary veins. Each leaf is a cell, each river a vessel, and the canopy is a skin that regulates the fever of our world. When we look at the maps showing the encroaching brown of the clear-cuts, we aren't just seeing a change in scenery. We are watching a slow-motion surgery on the living body of the Earth, performed by an operator who doesn't yet realize they are also the patient. There is a profound, almost haunting philosophical loop in our relationship with this wilderness. Humanity has always been drawn to what we destroy. We are obsessed with the hidden world, hungry for the secrets buried under the silt of the riverbeds and the myths whispered by the shamans. We are drawn to the mystery of what we have not yet conquered, seeking the thrill of the unknown. Yet, there is a tragic irony in this attraction. The very curiosity that drives us to explore also brings the tools of destruction. We love the idea of the wild, yet we fear its indifference. We seek to understand the wood wide web, yet we sever its connections with every road we build. Why are we so desperate to dismantle the very things that give our lives meaning? Perhaps it is because the Amazon represents a version of existence that doesn't require our permission to thrive. It is an ancient, autonomous intelligence that reminds us how small we truly are. To save the forest is a phrase we use to comfort ourselves, but the reality requires something far deeper than charity. It requires a fundamental shift in our intellectual and spiritual orientation. We must move beyond the arrogance of the resource mindset and step back into a role of respect and restraint. We need to acknowledge that there are things in the deep jungle that are not meant for us to own, or even to fully comprehend. The uncontacted tribes of the Javari Valley understand this. They do not seek to map the world, they seek to live within its rhythms. Their silence is a form of wisdom that we, in our noisy digital age, have largely forgotten. They protect the heart better than any government. Even now, the Amazon continues to guard its final secrets. Deep within the unexplored Javari Valley, a recent, unexplained discovery has sent ripples through the scientific community. It wasn't a ruin, but a series of rhythmic, low-frequency signals emanating from a region where no human settlements exist. It is a biological pulse that suggests the forest is far more sentient than our scans reveal. It is a reminder that we have only just begun to see what is really there. The forest has survived for 50 million years. It has witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, the shifting of continents, and the cooling of the earth. It is a resilient titan that has weathered every storm except for the one we brought to its doorstep. As we look into the deep green shadows, we must realize that the forest is not just a resource. It is a mirror. It reflects our capacity for wonder and our appetite for destruction. The question is not whether the forest will survive us. It has the patience of the ages. The question is whether we can find the soul to survive without it. The forest is watching. It has been watching since before we knew how to speak. And in its silence, there is an invitation. Maybe we have only just begun to see what is really there, pulsing in the dark heart of a world that will always belong to itself. This journey into the green abyss is not an ending, but a threshold for the human soul. We are not just saving a forest. We are deciding if we are worthy of the air it breathes into our lungs. The heart beats on, and for now, so do we.